Hello Premier League fans, this is Prashant. I'm founder of Premier League Museum and we are restarting coverage of Premier League once again with the preview show. A lot has happened since Premier League ended almost a month back or more than a month back. So we'll do a quick roundup of all the major updates on every club and I have with me the experts on Premier League who have been watching, following as well as talking and writing about Premier League for the last more than a decade now. Now, in case you are wondering exactly where we disappeared, well, we took a small break, as did the Premier League fans and the Premier League players, managers, and everybody. We tried to reboot ourselves and identify what kind of content is out there and what we can provide to the Premier League fans, which is different and not present already. And what we learned is following: we are the only ones who are 100% Premier League focused. No one else is really Premier League focused. Everyone is everywhere, but we are the only ones who are Premier League focused. We are the only ones who don't make predictions or entertainment or transfer or entertain any transfer rumors. And we are the only ones who bring out the hidden stories of the league, the past and the present different. And obviously you can follow our daily history plus latest news as well as the research minus the rumors on our website www.premierleaguemuseum.com. Now, before we start, I would request you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we promise you won't get disappointed. And with me now, I have my guests, so it's time to introduce the guests. So Somil, go ahead. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Uh, Hi guys, everyone. I'm Somil and I am basically writing about all the past and previous seasons of the Premier League. So at Premier League Museum, we have a dedicated section called History. So we start with the first Premier League season, that was 1992, and we write about every single day, every single match, every single player and manager since the Premier League began. So I write blogs for that. Currently, we are doing a brilliant 1993-94 season. So do check it out on our Premier League Museum.com website. And looking forward to connecting with you all once again soon.
All right, let's move ahead with Mondal, Sarthak Mondal. Introduce.
Hello, my name is Sarthak Mundal, as Prashant has said before, and not a lot of PhD. I'm yet to start my PhD basically, which is starting in 20 days at the time of recording, at the time we are recording the video. So my PhD is basically around sports economics and essentially in the Asian football industry, but I have done papers so far which is related to European and English football and also Asian football. So that is my background. And in terms of coverage, I have been following Chelsea extensively for the last 16 or so seasons now.
Awesome. Yep. And that's why I said that we have got the experts here who are no less than any pundit. But we won't do any punditry. What we would be doing is just the facts as well as the predictions of where this season will go. All right. Time to introduce the last but not the least, our friend from Tactic Talk, who has been giving us intense sports updates, including Premier League, every day for the last month or more than that. Time to introduce Sarthak Sharma. Take it away, man.
Uh, Thanks, Prashant. Thank you so much for having me on the show today. It's great to catch up once again. Just to give you a bit of background about myself, I've of course worked in the sports industry for the past few years. I've been a writer and journalist with the likes of Fox Sports and Sports Kira for the past few years, and most recently in the Indian Super League with FC Goa. And as Prashant so eloquently mentioned, I've now started my own venture on social media called Tactic Talk. You can find it on Instagram at tactic_talk, where I provide daily sports news and updates in video format in about 60 minutes, 60 seconds, so sorry, and all regular updates as well in the form of picture posts. And really excited to talk to Somil and Sarthak Mondal and Prashant today on the start of the new season of the Premier League.
Awesome. Thank you. And great to have all three of you into our podcast. So, Liverpool won their maiden Premier League title, and Bournemouth, Watford, Norwich City got relegated. Leeds, Fulham, and West Brom got promoted. as well as season got halted during coronavirus, which we just talked about. So this is where we ended, and obviously it's great and exciting to welcome back Leeds because Leeds has got a lot of rich history with the Premier League. So let's talk about the developing stories. As you can see, every window of the break, summer window break, gets occupied with the transfer requests, rumors, sacked, bought, sold, controversies, loan, released. So let's talk on the developing stories now. Coronavirus and the new season. What is the PL curtailment plan? Guys, any thoughts on the PL curtailment plan? How exactly is Premier League handling according to you? And very honestly, unfortunately, I still haven't heard back exactly what happened to the voting of the curtailment plan. Did they go ahead with the fact that, okay, if the pandemic strikes again, they will cut short the season midway, or will they actually continue the way they did with the Project Restart? What are your thoughts?
I mean, personally, I feel they will be continuing with the Project Restart the way they continued with Project Restart, because we're talking about like billions of pounds here. And unfortunately, finances have taken preference over human life right now for the Premier League, and something which they did even with the Project Restart. As a human being, I never think that Project Restart should have gone ahead the way it has, like without the fans in the stadium. Like, well, it is sustainable for the some of the clubs in the Premier League to have fans without to not have fans inside the stadium and still basically make a profit on their finances. But at the end of the day, we have heard stories from the likes of Valencia in Spain, who are basically releasing a lot of their first team players because they can't have fans in the stadium, and as a result, they do not have any revenue. The same has happened with Wigan Athletic in the Championship, and the same will happen to many clubs in lower down the English pyramid and potentially in the lower end of the Premier League.
I think, considering the fact that almost every other league was doing the same. I mean, French league was the only major league that got suspended, and almost everyone ridiculed that, right? So at the end of the day, as Sarthak said, it's about money. But I think more damage financially would have happened to a lot of tier two, tier three, and clubs down the food chain. They would have suffered more had the project restart not happened, because we're
I
talking
mean,
about.
apart from the Championship, none of the League One and League Two didn't even start. They just finished with basically the playoffs. They just had the playoffs, so there was no Project Restart for the League
For
One
them.
and League Two clubs, so they suffered anyways.
They,
Yep.
they did, Satvik, but what has happened is that the money that basically flows through from the Premier League trickles down to all levels of all the 92 clubs in
Uh,
England, right?
Well,
So
I will just give you a bit of fact check here, because so what is the prize money for basically finishing last in the Premier League? Somewhere around 98 million. What is the average revenue of a Championship club? 12 million. What is the average revenue of a League One club? Around 4 million. And you go down to League Two, it is 3 million. So I don't think the money is trickling down
Trickling down
as
well.
much as it
Yep.
should.
Yep. And that probably, I
So
think, Sarthak, that's a good point actually, and that probably should be our one of the topics we can debate in one of our other podcasts, which is it fair to have such a big gap between the different? I mean, after all, they are all belonging to the same country. So why would there be such a big gap in the leagues, League One, League Two, as well as Championship and the Premier League? Why should it be? So something definitely we should take up as a topic, and maybe I'm sure that you have got a good handle on exactly what's going on in the finances. Before we move ahead with the next story, anything Sarthak Sharma you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, coming back to the original point about a Premier League curtailment plan, I think with regards to Project Restart in itself was something that was absolutely necessary. It wasn't really an option for the Premier League to not restart the league or to shut it down midway through, because the advertisers pour in a lot of money. There's a lot of sponsorship deals that are going on. There's a lot of other things which are involved with the running of a football club and indeed with the running of a league as big as the Premier League. So absolutely, I don't see, and the fact that they were able to get through the period of the restart without too many cases, because you have to look at the fact that the so-called bubble, the bio bubble, had to be very strong. Because if even one or two cases had come up, there would have been question marks. And as Sarthak said, if it could have been considered something of a disaster if something had gone wrong. So, but luckily it didn't, and we were able to get through the season pretty much, safely enough from the point of view of the number of cases, which means that it gives the Premier League or the FA enough confidence that if indeed there's a second wave or a third wave in within England, they'll be able to handle it because they were able to handle it the first time with Project Restart. So I do think that the season will go on as expected. I heard Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, talking about the possibility of having fans back in stadiums as early as October. So I think that was, a statement which he made. I don't know whether that was to, appease the fans or whatever, but it'll be difficult to do that. How they'll manage it remains to be seen. And again, it'll be like a trial and error. Maybe they'll start with 10% capacity, move on to 30% capacity, and eventually see if the number of cases rise. So they'll definitely go ahead as usual. We've already had the schedule come out as well for the Premier League. And accordingly, I think the first few weeks of the season will decide where the rest of the.
All right, so let's move to our second topic, and our second topic is about. I know the smile will trickle on the Chelsea fans as well as Sarthak Mundal. Chelsea, have Chelsea made the best transfer according to Premier League fans? They seem like as if they have just ran away with this window. Time seems to have gone back to 2003, 2000.
I mean, like, I don't think so yet. Like, these are all new players and they have to gel on the field. And when you gel on the field, basically, these are all basically big money signings. More the likes of Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, and even Hakim Ziyech. Sort of Ben Chilwell. I mean, like, in my head, he is never a 50 million player, but we paid 50 million for him. The only reason being he's an English guy and adds to that homegrown player list. I guess Manchester United fans will agree with me here that Harry Maguire is never an 85 million player, probably more in the lines of, you can say, 40 to 45 million rather than 85 million. But because he is an English player, the price just went up. So at the end of the day, it is more about like how do we basically have a right mix of embedding the new signings along with some of the promising youngsters who performed well last season, the likes of Mason Mount or Reece James or Tammy Abraham. What happens when Billy Gilmour comes back? And essentially, I have seen most of the Chelsea fans basically rejoice because Kai Havertz can play in a lot of roles, but at the end of the day, it will be important for the manager of the club to find the right role for him in the team.
Yep, that's totally on the manager. And I before moving to the other guests, I would definitely say that for anyone probably who is obviously all the managers have their job at risk. I think this is kind of like a make or break season for Frank Lampard, in the sense that if he wins the title, and I don't think Roman Abramovich will agree any less.
I mean, at the end of the day, what I would say here is like this season, personally, if you are looking at from a club point of view, this season is not about winning the league, but rather making a step forward towards creating a dominant team and embedding the new players with the old youngsters who are already there, and basically keep a solid foundation so that this team can continue the winning ways in the years to come. But yeah, knowing Roman Abramovich, he would want at least one title.
That's exactly.
Be it in the form of an FA Cup or a League Cup or the league, he would want at least one title.
And that's exactly where I want to bring in other guests as well. Do you think Roman Abramovich will have that patience to just win any title, or he will settle for no less than a Premier League or maybe a Champions League?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very overwhelming transfer window, I'll say, from Chelsea's point of view, because it's one of those when you look at it, you think that they spent a lot of money, but when you look at the net spend of Chelsea, it's not actually that much, because when you consider the fact that Eden Hazard was sold for nearly 140 million pounds to Real Madrid, and they sold Alvaro Morata as well to Atletico Madrid before that for, I think, what, 60, 65 million. So that's a lot of money, which they haven't really invested into their squad yet, because they had the ban last summer, and of course in January you don't expect to get the best of deals as well. So for Chelsea to sort of invest in this transfer window was only natural. When you look at the fact that Roman Abramovich always has the money to spend regardless of a pandemic or not, because he practically owns Russia in terms of their energy resources. So it's not really a case of the unexpected, because you were expecting Chelsea to go and spend money. I do think that they've got a really, I would say, a diverse group of players into the squad. Right from Timo Werner, who's a natural born goal scorer, to Hakim Ziyech, who can who's shown what he's good at Ajax, and at the back with Thiago Silva. And I think that's primarily because of the experience that he brings in of all the years at the top level. Ben Chilwell, of course, emerging left back, really good player. So I think it's been a very good. I don't think they're done yet. They're going to be still in the market for a goalkeeper as well, at the very least. So I think it's been a good transfer window, but I think it's very difficult to say whether they've been the winners of the transfer window, because we've seen it so many times that clubs go out there and spend big money. They buy so many players, but they don't, as Sarthak said earlier, they need to gel together. They need to find that balance in the squad, which I think Frank Lampard will be able to do only once the season begins. He'll find his best team. And you also have to look at the fact that they've got some very good young players in this squad to begin with, like Tammy Abraham, you've got Mason Mount, Callum Hudson-Odoi. So there are a lot of players there who are, you're the part of that Lampard kind of mold of young players, upcoming players, English players. So he would want to give them as many opportunities as possible as well. So yes, I do agree that Roman Abramovich would demand at least one trophy, maybe even more. But let's see. Only time will tell whether this was whether Chelsea were the winners of this transfer window.
I agree, and I know that Manchester United fan has been waiting patiently, just like the real life, where they are hoping that someday Jordan Sancho will be coming in. So my next question is for Somil: is Manchester United a case of careful planning or another shambolic window?
I think it's more about managing the perceptions of the club. United in the last few years, I think there was a very famous quote from Ed Woodward a few years ago that, we can do some things in transfer market that other clubs only dream of. And I think that has kind of backfired on us. Every single time we go out in the transfer market, we have a premium that needs to be paid. As Sarthak mentioned, Harry Maguire, not an 80 million pound player. The fact that he is English, the fact that United had not recruited well for a centre back for years, we ended up paying more. I don't agree he's a 40, 45 million pound player, but certainly not an 80 million pound one. So with regards to United, what I think is the case this season is that they are trying to come across as two things. One, they want to make sure that they are not coming across as someone who will pay any amount of money that the club asks. So they want to put their foot down. They want to make sure that they negotiate well, and a certain perception of the club goes across that they are not going to be in the market on crazy prices. If the deal isn't good enough on financial terms, they will walk away. We saw that with Bruno Fernandes, actually. Bruno Fernandes came to United for an initial fee of around 47 million pounds, which is, I think, a really good deal that United managed to get through. So what I think United is going to do, they have waited throughout the summer. There have been briefs coming across from all sort of journalists and media that United are haggling over the price, the installments, the structure. Now in the last couple of days, we have seen that rumors about wages and agent fees with regards to Sancho. I think all of this is a little bit of an PR management. United want to make sure that they sell a few players first. We've already seen Alexis Sanchez going out. Apparently, Chris Smalling is going to go. I believe there will be a couple of sales going out, and United would like to make sure that the people think that in this difficult times where people are losing jobs and in this situation of pandemic, they are not spending crazily over the odds on a teenager and paying 108 million pounds for them. So I think it's a little bit of that. I think with a couple of signings, United have taken a good approach this year. I particularly am not a big fan of the way Chelsea have done their business so far. The thing is, if I was Frank Lampard, I would be actually worried, because you see most of the signings that Chelsea have done, they are not signings for this manager. They look more like signings of a manager that's going to come in. Because if Frank Lampard was to be backed, Willian would have got a new deal, and they would have already bought Declan Rice. So I think it's better to go one by one. I think United will get another couple of players in before the transfer window closes. But yes, with United, patience is the key, and I expect Sancho to eventually be at Old Trafford before the start of next season. But yes, it will take a few days. But I don't think it's going to be shambolic. Things have looked better under Ole, and I hope it continues.
All right, and final one. I'll start with Sarthak Sharma now. The reality show.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Amazon documentary. How many of you have watched the Tottenham the documentary?
Yeah, I've seen the first 3 episodes. I've got a chance to see so far. Been
So,
very
well,
interesting, I have to say.
For us, it is like 3 episodes every week. So only seen the episodes, and there are some jokes around it as well.
Yes. Okay. So, what do you think about the outcome of it with Jose Mourinho? Do you think he will come out roaring just like he does in the second season, or do you think, like just like this documentary represented, again chaos, tensions across the players? What do you think about the second season Jose Mourinho?
See, at the end of the day,
Okay.
okay, I will take Sarthak Sharma basically start on this, then I will add basically.
Sorry to cut you off there, Sarthak. But yeah, I mean, the documentary itself is of course very interesting, and it's quite typical of what you would see in a reality show, as you said, because they're trying to create that factor of excitement and of course get as many people hooked on it as possible. But talking about Jose Mourinho in particular, I think he's always been at a club where he's had a decent team to manage, had decent players to manage, and he's always come into a big club per se. Now, I'm not saying that Spurs are not a big club. Spurs are a pretty big club, but and they do have some good individual players. But do they have the so-called mentality to win Premier Leagues, to win championships? Not quite, not in my opinion. So I think for to say that Mourinho will come in, firing next season and be able to challenge for the Premier League with the current squad that he has, and the fact that we know Daniel Levy isn't isn't always the first to spend money, certainly not the level of the likes of Abramovich and others. So to expect Mourinho to challenge for the title next season would be a little bit unrealistic in my opinion. I do think that it's a good opportunity for them to fight for top four, and anything less than top four would be considered a failure for someone like Mourinho, because that's what he prides himself on, to be right at the top, to at least compete at the top. And we've seen, that towards the end of last season as well, they got some very good victories too. They beat Arsenal in the North London derby. They beat Leicester City quite comfortably, 3-0 if I'm not wrong. And they have that ability to win particular games simply because of the fact that Mourinho has a very good tactical brain. So only time will tell, of course, whether it's that kind of a recruitment job where Mourinho delivers trophies to them in some way, shape, or form. But I think the best way for him to win a trophy is in the likes of the League Cup or the FA Cup. Certainly not the Premier League. I see them challenging for top four at best.
Any thoughts, Sarthak Mandal?
So I will first start with I guess you guys, everyone has seen the opening line of that documentary, where the narrator says that much of Tottenham Hotspur's glory has been in the past, and I have a thing with that line. It should rather be all of Tottenham United's glory has been in the past, in the days of the dinosaurs back in 1960s. The second part is the documentary has been titled All or Nothing, it is absolutely wrong. It should have been titled All for Nothing because they don't win anything.
Well, that's the whole reason why Mourinho has been brought in, because they want to
Yeah.
win.
So you know, like where this has been going, all or nothing to all for
All
nothing,
for nothing.
and
Yeah,
and this is the thing where which I said on the similar lines. If you have seen the documentary Sunderland Till I Die, and
Sunderland till I die.
uh, then the news came that William Story wanted to buy Sunderland, and I've said that if it happens, the next season we will see a documentary called Sunderland Died, because you know how much money William Story has in his bank account.
That's true. That's true. That's true. It's like the whole Mike Ashley saga with Newcastle, which never tends to go away, and you just and it just continues to rumble on, as well as you know you just you just can't think, you feel for them, just like Newcastle. I personally feel for Newcastle. Similarly, I feel for Tottenham. I think they have done pretty good business. Daniel Levy is a nice guy. Yes, this time we saw him acting very ruthlessly, but pretty decent guy is how he came out in the documentary. Gives you a chance, but yeah, let's see if it's nothing, all for nothing, or all or nothing. Like I think, like Daniel Levy said, only time will tell whether he made the right decision or not.
I mean, for clubs around London, I hope that he made the wrong decision, because I certainly want to have a banter at their expense for the next 10 or 15 years.
Okay, Somil, before moving on to our next and the final section, where we will for 15 minutes talk about your, and this will be fun because we will be talking about the how you guys predict the position of each Premier League team in this. When we say each Premier League team, we talk about the relegation zone as well as the Europa and the champions. So that will be an interesting part. But any final comments on our final Tottenham ridicule which has been made? All for nothing.
I actually enjoyed the three parts. Mourinho is box office. Wherever he goes, he's box office. And, kind of Tottenham Hotspur has been into the shop window as a club for the last few years. The whole new stadium, marketing their club and the stadium to American sports, and now this documentary. I mean, you see 3 episodes so far, and not 30 seconds have been dedicated on what the tactics of the manager is. Right? Not a single thing about Ndombele, not a single thing about Hugo Lloris's horrific injury. It's all about what a brilliant club it is, the way it's been run, what a brilliant stadium it is. So I think it's a little bit of that. Daniel Levy is a very good negotiator and a very smart business guy. So, of course, Tottenham is going to be for sale in the next few years, and this is just part of that. Coming to Tottenham, I think they're going to have a good season. They have made a couple of good signings. I think Holberg from Southampton and Doherty from Wolves. Now, that's I think probably for me, that's one of the signings of the summer window so far. I think he's for less than 20 million. You've got probably the best attacking player who plays in a defensive position in the league. So, and he's a typical Mourinho player, right? So, I think second season for Jose Mourinho, a couple of signings which will give them good squad, good depth, and I think he'll be playing. I think he'll be playing in Europa, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
that's So I think there is a very good chance that he will focus only on one of them, because Mourinho knows how to count his chickens, right? So for him, I don't think he's going for top four. I don't think that's his thing. Just like what he did with United, he will keep in and around the top four, and if he sees himself having a chance with Europa League, he will go for it, because if he wins Europa League, he can claim he won a European trophy for Tottenham, right? Arsenal haven't won a European trophy, right? So he can say, I won silverware. He can say he succeeded and he got them to the Champions League. So I think I think they're going to have a better season than a lot of people are expecting. But yes, whatever it is going to be, it's going to be fun.